I was in the Canadian Navy during the war, and when I came out, I had absolutely no business skills at all. I finally ended up with my CA degree, and I was with Pete Mark Mitchell, who were the auditors for the Hudson's Bay Company. And one of the audits I did worked on was the fur trade, as it was then called, now the Northern Stores. And the controller at that time was Hugh Sutherland, Ian Sutherland's father. And I learned what a wonderful franchise the company had, and you know, just incredible.
If you go back into that period of time, there was no communications with the South other than a telegram on our company radio. There was no telephones, there was no radio reception. We saw our inspectors, our district and divisional managers 2 to 3 days per year. We were completely on our own. We managed the business. We purchased their goods, ordered them for sea lift, we marked them, we sold them. We balanced the books on a monthly basis, and we would send our results out by telegram.
Well, in the mid-1980s, I was working for the Mutual Trust Company, part of the Mutual Life Group. Jeff Gidney, my brother-in-law at the time, and a Canadian Tire dealer who had previously worked for the Northern Stores Department, kept suggesting that Northern Stores would be a good acquisition target. Same time, coincidentally, the Hudson's Bay Company was in financial difficulty. I thought it might be an opportune time to approach them to see if Northern Stores was available.
Out of the blue, I had a call from Ian Sutherland, who I did not know, I had never met, but he told me he was Hugh Sutherland's son, and I greatly admired his dad, and his dad had been my boss at the Bay, and they told me what they were doing. The deal was $185 million, and we borrowed $150 million, including a vendor take-back note from the Bay, I think it was 20 or 30 million. We borrowed the other 120 from the Bank of Montreal. And we had to put up $35 million in equity to buy shares. And we had it all set, and the whole thing was going ahead. And then 2 of our potential investors decided they weren't interested in completing the transaction. They were each in for $5 million. So we were just, all of a sudden, at the last minute, we were short $10 million.
So we approached the Civil Service Pension Fund, the Manitoba Teachers Pension Fund, and after a preliminary meeting with the Teachers Pension Fund, they wanted us to meet their chairman, who was Jim Oborn at the time.
I was pretty convinced that, in my own view, this was a pretty good deal. We took 25% of the equity of the deal.
So he said to me, "Are you putting your money?" I said, "Jim, I'm putting every nickel I got into this because I think this is a wonderful opportunity."
We had one condition: Derek Riley be named chairman of the board.
I said, "Okay, fine."
At the time, it was the largest employee management participation in Canada's history. So it was quite significant. We had hundreds of people sending us checks from the far northern reaches of the country who just wanted to be part of this enterprise.
Who are these guys? And they're taking over what is really the heart and guts of the whole Hudson's Bay Company, the original fur trading operation.
We had a sense that we needed a seasoned merchant, somebody who would bring a fresh approach.
I acted as acting chief executive officer for about 6 months while we did an executive search.
Ralph Trott was one of the names that came up among several.
But we decided to go with the kid, and he really shook things up.
I remember clearly Derek was sitting in the chair behind the desk, and I walked in and said, "Hi, I'm Ralph Trott, I'm here to work." And he got up immediately, and he shook my hand and walked around to the other side of the desk and sat down. And I was a little confused, said no, because I was going to sit there. He said, no, that's your chair over there. You're the president, you sit over there, I'll sit here. And we started our conversation. And I was blown away by Mr. Riley's leadership. And I knew that was a guy you'd never want to let down. It was very simple and direct, which Derek, I think, is. He said, I want you to build me a great Canadian company.
I can see this company, I want to see this company being a public company with shares listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and I want to see the company have sales in excess of $1 billion, $1 billion. At the time, I think our sales were about 350 million. And I said, I want to see it recognized as a great Canadian company. And they thought, well, what's this guy been smoking?
I just wanted to start opening up the culture. I felt the culture was a very closed culture. We need to get a business strategy first and foremost. And I undertook to find someone that could help me create a business strategy. And that was a guy by the name of Edward Kennedy.
My focus was on Northern Stores becoming a public company, and I would help them, or my firm would help them with that process, maybe raising some capital. We talked about how people bought, how they shopped in the north, and the importance of variety. So your parkas, your outerwear, your footwear has to be tested to 40 below, not city cold, which is 15 below, or Toronto cold, which is 5 below in a wind chill. And so that nuance, as I'm saying that to Ralph, I've noticed that he's wearing a pretty light coat. He still hasn't got a winter coat yet, and he's just heading into the Winnipeg winter. I think it was November.
I was brought in as a change agent, and I was brought in because of my reputation to be able to compete in major markets. All the facts that we unearthed pointed us in a radically different direction.
For a guy to come to the board, and a board who's looking for answers and solutions to the existing business, it's sort of like, how can we make the existing business work? And his idea was sell off all these road stores.
The implication was we were actually going to sell stores and cut ourselves off from certain kinds of markets and get out of a business that was actually profitable. Many of these stores made very good money. So the board had to wrestle with that, and our recommendation was to go ahead and do it.
And a lot of the die-hard old Hudson's Bay types, oh God, they're selling the crown jewel of our operation.
To focus on the north instead of the south, I don't think the board conceptually had a problem with that. I think they understood the logic and the vision behind being a more focused retailer.
Len Flett was our Director of Store Development and later Vice President of Store Development of Northwest. And he was responsible for community affairs, government affairs, negotiating with First Nation communities on store developments and leases.
We did about 50 agreements, and that put about roughly $100 million worth of assets owned by the First Nations on their reserves. And of course the new developments created something like 800 jobs.